This episode is part of Lanfrica Talks. Lanfrica Talks provides a platform to showcase efforts in language technologies around the world. To learn more or attend our live sessions, see the description below.
Good day, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us to our Lanfrica Talks with Batazia. This is a very long-awaited talk. I have been a huge fan of Batazia and what they're trying to do in enabling reading books and learning in any African language of your choice. So I'm very, very happy to be hosting this talk. I am Chris. And today we have Deepaponga Atanga, the co-founder and CTO of Batazia. She's a product lead with a decade plus experience, a startup enthusiast with a focus on empowering girls and women. Also a leading digital innovation in the zero carbon sustainable energy sector in Houston, Texas, education technology and financial literacy technology in sub-Saharan Africa. Deepaponga is a graduate of Sullivan University, Louisville, and has a master's in information technology management and a master's in analytics. Thank you so much for being here with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chris. As you rightly said, I have been a fan of yours for a while now, following Lanfrica, being excited, and it's very exciting for me to be here. This talk has been one coming along, and I'm really just so glad to be on this platform, to be on Lanfrica. I feel at home, one, and I want to thank Chris and everyone that has just been very supportive in getting this together. And I would not go forward without thanking you, Chris, for your incredible patience with me. So I'm really happy to be here. So yes, Batazia, that's a very, what our vision and what we want to do is a very lofty idea, I think a lot of people would say, and very bold. But we decided a while ago that we would be bold and boldly take that step and start doing something. Lanfrica is here. I'm here for Batazia and other people working in language translation for Africa. We all know there's been a problem forever, but now we are stepping into that space to do something about it. And today I will be talking about speech recognition for African languages, really for mobile applications. That is really, I mean, Batazia, we are translating African languages to every other language in the world. Our intention is the whole 2,000 plus African languages. So we don't intend to stop at any point. So we're gonna be here for a long time. That's our goal. Yeah. We want to do every language. We don't see the reason why anyone should be limited to resources, to education, or to the global economy because of a language barrier. So that's our goal. That's our desire, and that's what we're really looking forward to do. So today we'll be talking about speech recognition for African languages. A lot of work has been done within the sphere of translation, and a lot of work is being done right now for translation, for naturalization of African languages. But I do see the speech recognition as something that is very paramount and something that is very African. I would say that because the African language from its roots is very oral. It's a very oral language, and we pass generation to generation. History, every kind of knowledge is passed down in Africa through oral traditions. They are told, stories are explained, parables are used, and all of this is used to pass down information for history, for health, for care, for administration within the African context. So we are exploring that importance for technology. How applicable is that as we build these translation technologies in Africa to have speech recognition where the mobile carriers and the mobile phones and the mobile users are able to still speak the same way without changing anything, to still communicate without moving from one place to the other because of some other issues that are paramount now within the continent, and to be able to pass down this tradition. So that's the first part that I want to talk about, really exploring that recognition. When we have the definition, I would say the definition of literacy is quite dynamic. I don't think one reading and writing is literacy. I would say it's dynamic because to me, it would depend on the culture, the civilization, and what literacy really means for that group of people. Because within a nomadic environment, literacy is totally different. A literate child would be someone that understands every order, knows where to feed the cows, which mountains to move, understands the clouds, understands the rainy season or the dry season. And that's a lot of geography and science all put together. So that is literacy. So I would say within the African continent, we have a lot of literate Africans that do not speak any foreign language, which is they don't speak French, English, Portuguese, Spanish, or any other language that was adopted on the continent. But they're very literate within their environments, within their civilizations. And they're not able to join in the technology evolution because of that barrier, because it only addresses languages that are foreign to them. And this particularly, I think, it does not respect our culture, and it does not promote any linguistic diversity within Africa. Two, our communities are not empowered by the global technology, the global market, and the global changes. They're not empowered, and all of these barriers need to be taken down. So that's what we'll be talking about. So that's my introduction slide. I will go now to the next. So I've kind of dived a little bit into what the importance of speech recognition technology is. So Batazia intends to bridge that gap, bridging the gap of communication in diverse linguistic landscapes. So we intend to find every pocket within Africa that speak a language that is natural to them and translate it on a mobile device. So low resource languages, maybe 20,000 people are speaking that language, 10,000 people are speaking that language. You and I can agree, everyone that is here, what it means for maybe a social influencer to have 10,000 followers, right? 10,000 followers within a market, that is amazing. People would go above and beyond on Instagram. We see all of this on Instagram, on YouTube, on all the social medias just to get 2,000 followers. They even buy something. So imagine a language that is spoken only by maybe 10,000 people, and they cannot understand anything else that is happening outside of the world. And so our goal is to bridge that gap. We're not stopping. We're going to move from one to the next. Okay. And the next thing on our point is facilitating the access to digital services, which I've just named. I'm trying to just summarize them. The digital services are needed everywhere. You can see the young lady standing in front of some oranges, tomatoes. What would it mean for the petty trader to not try to speak anybody's language and just be able to speak into her phone and order that her delivery, the person that is bringing in the oranges, can bring it in on time? How will it be for her to just speak into her phone? If she doesn't know how to type, she can just speak her language and say, I have a lot of people waiting for oranges. When do you think you're going to be here? And be able to have that farmer respond to her. And that is what is going to also, enhance their experience with the mobile application. The next point that I also want to talk about is enhancing accessibility and inclusivity in the digital world. You can see a very nice guy here with his phone trying to get network, trying to figure out somewhere. They probably went to the farm and they probably have to call. And how possible is he to type into that phone? Or he can just speak into it. Maybe he needs to reach the child that is coming back home from school. They need to open the door. In Africa, there's a culture where we go to the farm and stay there for a week or 2 days, because there's a lot of work to be done, and transportation too is key, right? So the farmers would now prepare everything that is needed for 2 days, and they would go to the farm. So if the mother and the father are in the farm, and you have the children back home who need to go to school, how do they reach them? Under normal circumstances, it's a no reach for 2 days. You don't know what's happening, not at all. And they didn't type. Nobody's teaching keyboard typing in Africa. Some of those languages do not have alphabets. They've not been created yet, but those languages can be spoken. So this father should be able to send a voice note in his dialect to his daughter, or just have a live conversation with the child, or just speak and give them instructions, or even support them with their homework while at the farm and they are at home, and he's able to go live and say, I can support you, and they speak their language, and they're able to read the book in their language without translating it. So the child who understands English does not have to figure out what to tell the parents that is in the farm, what their textbook is saying, so they can explain it to them. You can see how that goes. There's no way to understand. It's a whole point of confusion. My father wants to help me with homework, but he cannot speak English. So I need to tell him, first of all, what that textbook is saying, so he can try to process it. And then now he will try to explain to me what that textbook is talking about. We're talking those hours. But what if that father was able to just speak into the phone and say, okay, what textbook are you talking to? And they look at Batazia, and that textbook is translated in Swahili, in Igbo, in Yoruba, in Twi, and the child is able to access the textbook in that language, and that parent is saying, you know what, let's do your homework. What is your teacher asking? And they can explain it to the child. And after they do that, the child can still access that book in English that is being taught in schools. That is another issue still to be addressed, but I think we already have countries like Sierra Leone addressing that, where the primary language for early learners is not a foreign language. And for context purposes, what I call a foreign language is what I'm speaking, English, because my dialect is not English. I am from the Chamba ethnic group in Cameroon, West Africa, and we speak Mugaka. So that is my language, but now I'm speaking a foreign language. So for that, for context purposes, when I say foreign language, I'm talking about colonial languages. I'm talking about English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch. I think a few, I don't know if they do that. And truly Arabic is a colonial language as well, however we see it, because we also have the Berber people who originally, that is their region in the northern Sahel, that also speak Berber and other traditional languages on that area. So that is what we aim to do. That is what Batazia intends to foster, digital literacy. So by speaking his language into the phone, it will also transcribe the text for him. And that will foster and promote, the use of technology, and also be able to support him and his family, and actually reducing the language divide, especially when it comes to homework support and also business support for adults and young people within the continent. So we still have this nice lady here on this slide. And now we're talking about how really addressing that language barrier in Africa. That is, I think we're here because we're addressing it already. Everyone that is here is addressing that language barrier. You've taken out your time to come listen to me. You've accepted to come to support Chris in Land Africa and everybody else because of that language barrier. In Africa, we're a very dynamic group of people, amazingly dynamic. And we all have our languages. Even in South Africa, where we have second, third, and fourth generation of the Dutch, they have Afrikaans. It's not a Dutch language. We are a very dynamic set of people, and our languages bring us together. They bind us together. They bound us. So when I look at the importance of the local languages, there's really, I don't think there's an extent to which we can emphasize that. Like I said, I'm originally from Cameroon. We are called Africa in miniature. We have more than 300 ethnic groups. We do not have a local language that is spoken by more than 500,000 people. I don't think so. I'm not sure on that, but I don't think so. And these 300 ethnic groups, we all have different languages. So in Cameroon, it's very common for me to live 5 miles from my neighbor and not understand anything that is being spoken in that village. Zero understanding. We might have a couple of words that resemble or they sound like each other and the mannerisms, but we really don't. And then we have two official languages, which are colonial languages, French and English. And French and English is what is being spoken in Africa, in Cameroon, and most part of Africa. So you have 80% of Cameroon speaking French officially in schools and official documents. You have 20% speaking English in schools and official documents. You also have the requirement as a child in the speaking English zone of Cameroon to learn French by obligation. You're not asked, you have to learn it. In the French side, you have the obligation of learning English. You're not asked, it's part of your curriculum. And so now you find a young African girl, that could be me. I live in the home. My mom is French speaking. My dad is English speaking. They have two separate languages. My mom has the Bamileke language, which is different, which is the Bantu language. You have the Chamba language, which is my father's language. It is different. I go to school. I have to learn French and English compulsory at the age of 6. So I am forced into being multilingual. How do I then process education when I have all these languages? And not one language is supported. Every language is important. And this is my story. And you have hundreds of millions of young African girls and boys all across Africa. That's what we go through. Then we have a 5th language in Cameroon. It's Pidgin English. They have it in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone. They call it the Creole. That is now the place where we bring the melting pot. Those who cannot speak English, that's what they thought. And then their dialects, we just speak the broken. So the broken English is the unofficial language of the English-speaking part of Cameroon. Everybody speaks it in the markets, everywhere. That's the language I use when I play with my friends. So now as a child, I have to wake up every day and process 6 languages by obligation. Except I was blessed, my mom studied my father's language, so she started speaking my father's language. And that is a burden to the African woman. She has to learn the husband's language so that she can train the children in that language because she's married there. This slide is a very passionate one for me. And as you can see, I've gone on lengthy ways to explain it. Now, how do we increasing the access to these vital services to that 6-year-old me that speaks a little bit of Chamba, a little bit of Bamileke, a little bit of French, a little bit of English, some broken. How do I go to the clinic and say I have malaria? And they ask me, what is wrong with you? In what language do I tell them I have fever? In what language do I tell them my whole body is aching me? I feel like I have a headache. I cannot sleep. So healthcare is really something that now I'm probably at the clinic with someone who is French speaking or English speaking, or the nice good old missionaries that came to Africa in the healthcare that don't speak our traditional languages. And they're looking at me and there's a diagnosis. How do we stop that misdiagnosis of diseases where there's no understanding? My mom goes to the hospital and she says she has pain in her leg, and they give her an injection. And they say, oh, we'll just give you an injection and it goes. But when she explains to me, I'm here, I think it's arthritis. I don't know what injection she was given for that. That's a problem. There's no language services. How would Batazia do that? If she could speak her language into Batazia and it transcribes and they translate it to English or whoever is doing her intake, The person will understand, when I'm walking, my knees hurt. I can feel my bones. I cannot walk for long. I have pain. And the doctor, the good old nice doctor, will understand it's arthritis. It's not just, they just don't need some pain medication to go back home. It's something you have to investigate further. So I've explained how education is difficult in language already with myself. And now when we go to e-commerce, that is the most crucial part. This young lady here should be able to supply her oranges to an office from her vending station. She should be able to go to an app and speak in her dialect and respond to others who are asking for oranges or fruit baskets or arrange fruits for office delivery or for schools. She should be able to do that. But she cannot do that if she only has to wait for everyone to come to the market to her. And the point is, nobody's going to the market to her because the other people that can speak English are able to take those orders and go to the market and buy these oranges for a very low price and deliver it and make profit, while she makes no profit in e-commerce. That is all over. She should be able to work with delivery services that can send delivery drivers to pick up her supply, but she cannot. Because she cannot, she's probably speaking one language, and the applications only understand French, English, and every other language. And so those who have learned to that, which is a great divide, they are monetizing e-commerce, and the actual traders and the farmers, they're not able to benefit from e-commerce at all. Batazia wants to remove that. We have an explore section, we have a marketplace where she would be able to put her store there and not choose she will have the opportunity to sell to everyone. If she's in Cameroon, at least 10 to 15 languages to begin with, she should be able to send to everyone within her environment that can speak or that can say, you know what, I only speak Babliki. I'll just speak into the app when I log in and say, you know what, Babliki seller of oranges, or someone who understands only Babliki for oranges that I can communicate with. And they can send voice messages, and she can also benefit for herself and her entire family. As you heard in my introduction, I'm very passionate about the African child, especially the girl. And you see the girl here multiple places. I'm not biased. I have a son, I have a husband, I have brothers, nieces, and nephews. But I'm very particular about the African girl because she is the backbone of the African e-commerce, education, and everything. She is. And if she's not prioritized, then there is a problem. First, we still have to convince everyone to let them go to school. We have to convince everyone to let them be in tech, like I am. Or we have to let the fathers convince other people that girls deserve the attention that they're giving to boys. So now we're going to meet them at the marketplace. That's where they are. That's where in every African village, you will meet 80% of the girls in the marketplace. And they would use Batazia for e-commerce. We want to strengthen their business skills, strengthen their educational skills. They will be able to learn because we're going to translate books to their languages. They don't have to go to a classroom. They would do it right there, sitting in the market. When the time is down, she can learn how to monetize it. She can learn digital marketing of her products right in the marketplace on her cell phone. That's our goal. And now to our next slide, the process. Development process challenges and benefits of adapting speech recognition technology for African languages. It's very, at first I looked at it as a challenge. And for purposes of the talk and just being able to translate what I'm saying, I would say it's a challenge. But when I look at other continents and I look at Europe, European language is quite difficult. The other countries. I mean, my co-founders are Dutch. I don't understand anything in Dutch. When they speak it, it sounds really, it's like someone is in space talking to me. But, but they have it digitally, right? They're able to type it. Chris, you're in Germany, I'm sure. And everybody else, I don't know where you are. And I mean, you have the Japanese language online. You have Chinese online, and multiple. In India, they have multiple languages. They have it online. Tamil, Hindi, all of that. And so, to me, the biggest challenge is the lack of resources to get the language. There's not been enough attention paid to African languages. That is the single only challenge I see in developing this, which is funding in data collection and, modeling. There is no other language, because the same way we are able to translate Dutch, German, Finnish, Mandarin, the languages in Japan, and the languages in India, Pakistan, and Arabic, we should be able to do that for African languages. The challenge is attention. The challenge is how many people are ready to invest in their time, their money, to get the data that is needed. In the beginning, I said we're very oral in Africa. A lot of times, if you look online, you hear African kids saying, oh, if you hear my village or my group of uncles or aunties talking, they're all screaming, but they're not fighting, right? We're passionate with our language. We like talking. We're very oral. So how difficult is it to collect data from people that are very oral? It's not. It's absolutely not. It's actually very easy, because Africans believe in talking. We believe in talking. We pass down knowledge from one generation to the next. We pass down healthcare. The basic healthcare that we know as our mothers taught us was orally. We didn't read any book. And we took that language. How does a woman treat her husband? Those are the things that they pass it down. How do you go to school? How does a boy in a village go fishing? Did they go to the fish, to the lake, and the father bring out a book on fishing like we have here? No, they just taught him. They just spoke it to him, and he learned. So for a people whose tradition is heavily dependent on oral language, there is no other challenge than the fact that enough attention is not being paid to how vital and important language translation is in Africa. We're ready to give that data. So the data collection and language modeling, to me, I really look at that as the biggest issue. And that comes with investment, investing in Land Africa, investing in Masakane, investing in all these people that are, working hard to bridge this gap. Because I have seen applications with 30 European languages, easy. It's not difficult. So I don't see it as difficult. What's the benefit? Africa is one of these 7 emerging markets. We know that. In sub-Saharan Africa, you have 1.4 billion minimum, that is of 2021. And the cell phone penetration in Africa is exponential. To me, that is the biggest digital market that is open right now. There is no other place on the planet Earth where you have a minimum of 500 million people that the market is open, because India and China, they're not open markets. I live in the US, the whole of the US is 300 million. It's not an open market to everybody, a digital market. But Africa, that is just a very small percentage of the market that is available right now. And this is for business purposes. What can you not sell to 500 million people online? There really is nothing you cannot sell. In terms of communication, why should an African that only speaks Swahili write a book and I am not able to read it in my dialect? Or someone else is not able to read it in Yoruba or in Igbo? Why do we have that communication gap? Because that's not the case in other continents or countries where they have multiple languages. In my country, they're very quick to translate every book in French and in English. There is no author that wrote a book in French that they've not readily translated it in English. That should be the case with every other language. it will not only empower businesses. We have millions of people. I will use an example, the US, 5 million businesses on TikTok telling the Congress, don't shut it down. 5 million businesses. And they're speaking English or whatever language they're speaking. Let's say just 1 million. What does 1 million to an influencer that speaks only a dialect? What the amount of marketing and endorsements that they can do? I began to say, what about 10,000 followers? That is a lot. But that language barrier is reducing it. There is a wide gap where there's only but a little you can do. In communities like in Nigeria, there's really a lot of advancement with the language in social media, because you also have that following, and they have huge languages that are spoken, like you have 50 million people speaking Igbo, and another maybe 40 or 50 million speaking Yoruba, and maybe another 100 million speaking Hausa. They can have influencers, but how many of those social interactions are built by Africans? Are they using our mannerisms? Are they using our languages? Are we selling with our language? Are we interacting in business spaces, online, digitally, with our languages? We are not. If they have to sign a contract, like I said, if you have a Yoruba influencer on TikTok, the contract they signed is in English. It's not in Yoruba. How well did they understand that contract that they signed? Did they translate it to them? Did they read it aloud to them? A lot of things are very biased when it comes from Africa, because they say, oh, they signed a contract. What contract? They didn't even understand that contract. It was not in their language. They don't understand it. How do they sign these contracts in their dialects that are not major dialects? Digital contracts I'm talking about. Because they're always signing digital contracts. When you download an app, you sign a contract, you agree to their terms and conditions. How many people actually understand that they're all in English or some language that they don't in Africa? And that doesn't help for business. And it also eliminates our languages. But that is like I said, the development process to me, and it's just two things. We need data collection, which is easy for me if there is funding, and language modeling. One, spark interest for more people like Chris and everybody else that has interest in this, and encourage them to learn. Our next point that I would like to discuss is respecting African cultures and promoting linguistic diversity. This is a million-year-old conversation, I believe. That's how I'll say it. On the mobile, Africa is very dynamic. We are very culturally sensitive. We are very ethnic sensitive, and we have different cultures, different traditions. That is very important. The picture here is a group of men dancing from my mother's village. They are the Bamileke men. They're dancing, as you can see. And I put them here intentionally because the Bamileke people in Cameroon are the most industrious people in Cameroon. There is no business organization where in every 8 huge business ventures in Cameroon, 8 is owned by the Bamileke men and women. 8 of those ventures. There is no business space in Cameroon that you will not find the Bamileke people thriving exponentially. No village you would find them. They are kind of like the Igbo people in Nigeria. Very, very industrious people, business savvy, yet very attached to their culture. I'm sure most of these men you see just came to the village to do this. And they'll go back to their businesses, to their marketplaces. After they perform the dance with their cocoa leaf and they wear their traditional attire, they're holding on to their traditions. Maybe one person was getting married to a 5th wife. Yes, polygamy is legal. Now, we have I said polygamy because in the US it's illegal. In most Western cultures, it's illegal. And so translation and incorporating that diversity to respect these particular aspects is very critical. As we localize those languages, we have to look at these things within the rich diversity that we have in Africa. In most African countries, polygamy is legal. It's very legal. One man can have as much wives as he wants. And is he able to have a business account and or even a personal account and put many wives to it as wives? Is that a possibility? That diversity does not really exist in other spaces. It's frowned upon and it's an issue. The Bamileke man would not also want to not feel welcome in a space that maybe he feels that another ethnic group owns it or they can manipulate it. That's the ethnic sensitivities we have. How do we respect those sensitivities as we bring technology to them, as we bring translation to them? Because now it's going to open a whole different world. It's going to bring in a whole different level of traditions and that people will start with their families by using Batazia. That's what I see. When I say traditions, I mean where they will be able to put Batazia and have a conversation in their dialect and use it for entertainment. That's what I mean. But now we also have this sensitivity to everything else around us. I'm trying to use a good word, but I would say everything around in the African culture, because everything has a meaning to the African. In their village, everything, the streams, the trees, the rivers, the food, everything is tied to a particular meaning, to a particular thing, or a particular anniversary, or a particular day. So how are we going to prevent the reinforcement of these ethnic disparities where the Bamileke man would think, okay, I shouldn't be doing this here because it's the Douala person running it, or the Igbo man will say, well, that application is owned by Yoruba people, I don't want to be on it. How will we use that? I think we will use, Batazia will use this positively in the sense that if the Bamileke man could properly understand the mannerism that the Douala man is speaking, they will understand that they are not insulting them in many ways. Because mannerism differs. And so natural language processing and really having that data to study that and what it means and how it's expressed is very key. Having Batazia as a melting pot where those things can be understood, the perspectives can be you can get their perspectives as they speak, is very critical to the ethnic divide in Africa. We don't really understand each other, the multiple languages. And like I said, in Cameroon, you can drive 5 miles and the next person does not understand what the next person is saying in their dialect. Nothing. So in one dialect, food means a private part. In another dialect, it means a vagina or a penis. Yeah, it does. And so if that person is talking about maybe their food, the other person might feel like you're insulting my private parts. And we have this constant ethnic divides of, oh, don't marry into that clan because they don't do things like we do. But if they're able, through online exposure, through socializing on an application like Batazia, where you see ethnic cultures from all over Africa, the different reasons why the people do the different things, you really understand them in your own language, because you're not going to be listening from their perspective. You're going to be listening in your own language. I think it would remove a lot of those disparities. We will start understanding each other better. We will start, getting from what perspectives those things are spoken or those behaviors that we're seeing are happening. And I think that is really key, that there is a place where you can understand your brother from Senegal without thinking these people are weird. I don't want to do anything to do with them, just because you saw them from your perspective without understanding where they're coming from. It would encourage growth. It would preserve our languages. It will preserve our cultures. It will promote it, because we will now be bold enough to actually enjoy sharing this content with other people online. It will make those who are not able to come out and say, hey, in my culture, in the Northwest, we eat bugs. Yes, you heard me right, bugs, little bugs, grasshoppers. It's a precious meal. During that season, it's a problem. You can't even buy it. People are scrambling for it. And there's a reason why we eat that, right? And does that make us all savages? No. But would someone want to maybe go online and speak in their own dialect and say, oh, or even read about why the people of the Northwest eat that? And it would, because there are ethnic disparities where people don't want to marry from a tribe because of what they eat, or what they do, or how they speak, or how they walk. And we want to remove those barriers and encourage the preservation of language by having this melting place called Batazia. And so the last, but definitely not the least, is really empowering communities and breaking down every form of barrier, whether it's knowledge, whatever barrier you can think. I believe that if I don't understand something, I cannot monetize it, I cannot act on it, I cannot live by it. I really don't understand it, and there's really nothing I can do with that information. It's really our core belief within Batazia. I speak for our CEO, she's here as well. We do believe that a lot of knowledge that has been brought to Africa has been of no use. And the reason why I say that is because if I don't understand what you're saying, I don't know how you're helping me. I just don't understand what you're saying. So there's an assimilation of what you are expecting and what I am hearing and the actions that I'm performing to what you're saying. A couple of months ago, I listened to a lady. She was the former ambassador from the African Union to the United States, Madam Atin, she's called Chihombori, and she said, she was talking about how African nations signed contracts. And she talked about how most of the Africans don't really read it, and then they would just sign it. And then I asked myself, do they even understand it? They might not. Because even in adulthood, English is still a foreign language to me. There are things that if I really want to express it right now, I will tell Chris, oh boy, make everybody shift. I will speak in broken. Chris will understand me, right, Chris? If I say it like that, if I say it in broken, I want to tell him something that is critical, I will go in broken English. So if I'm telling you that my very base place where I understand something really good is in broken pidgin, how do you think I'm struggling with English and every other language that I have to speak? So do they really understand it? All the aid that has been coming to Africa, did we really understand that aid if it's not in our languages? Well, we have mobile penetration in Africa. It's huge. And everyone, the villages, the places where the cars cannot reach, those people have left those places and they've come to the cities and they've gotten cell phones. They don't have to go back to the city anymore. Everyone can understand what it means to get information. In the northwest of Cameroon, there is war going on, kind of, and there is the separatists and the government. And there are some people that are living in bushes. How do you get to those people with information that is critical? Healthcare. How do you tell them, support them and say, is there a way for them to survive in there? For the girls, like using pads. A couple of years back, we had to send people to go into the forest with pads for the girls because the girls were using leaves. Yes, you heard me right. Leaves during their period. How do we send this information? How do we sensitize our people? How do we really democratize the access to information and resources to the bare minimum in Africa? Is only going to be done by translating and naturalizing our languages so that our people can understand everything that is being spoken. I do believe that a lot of wars are being fought because we just don't understand each other, and the problem is the language. And of course, if people don't understand each other and they have to react by your reaction, of course there's going to be fighting. Because if you sit and someone just comes and is fighting you and you don't understand why they're fighting, you would want to defend yourself. And if you speak to that person and they don't understand you, there's really no way to have a settlement. So I do believe that it will not only encourage cross-cultural communication and collaboration, like I said earlier on, it will foster economic growth and social development across the whole continent. If everyone could understand the next person clearly in what they're trying to articulate and not struggle, we would do business better. We would have better friendships. We would study better. We would exchange information better. We would understand what perspectives and places were coming from better if we just understood what we talked about. We have a lot of farmers in Africa, and we actually have one that is with us. She has a content of Batazia, and she's teaching farming, urban farming. And she has difficulties reaching people in areas that they're not very accessible. But these people have cell phones to a certain degree, right? And they can understand the urban farming. I just found out as I was I was just researching that where I'm from, we can actually grow grapes to make wine. So we should not only have wine being produced in South Africa, we can actually produce wine. The weather in the Northwest region can produce wine. We can have wine refineries there. But the people that own that land, how do I tell them? They will not understand me if I speak in my mother's tongue or my father's tongue. And say, you know what? Don't just plant only corn. You can actually have grapes on this land that you can open a winery and you can sell wine right from here. We want them to come to Batazia and hear that. We want them to be able to listen to their counterparts in South Africa who have content online about growing these grapes that they can just watch and implement it without having to look for someone that speaks Afrikaans or Zulu or any other language, or try to translate it from English, but just see that, okay, that is how that weather is. This is what this guy is saying. Because even when they go on YouTube, they don't understand it. They don't. So Batazia, we want to foster that level of economic growth. The way they are rearing cattle in Kenya, how can someone in the Gambia replicate that without having our teacher, our content creator, Amaka, travel to Gambia? She travels all across Africa. And she's very passionate about Batazia because she wants that place where she can teach all of this and they can learn it without having to struggle with language. So that is really what Batazia is. That is who we are. That is what we are looking to establish within the continent of Africa, using not only speech recognition, but every other technology and artificial intelligence that is available to translate and localize languages for everyone to be able to participate. And that's my last slide, and I'll hand it over back to you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Dipaponga. One last thing. So let's talk about Batazia. What are the ways that people can can help or can join. So we have students, we have different people here listening in, both in this platform and online. And when they hear what you're doing, many of them will be motivated and to come in and join. So do you have open positions at Batazia? Do you have a community call? Are you looking for people to add more books, to submit more books? Like, what are the ways the community can help in Batazia?
Absolutely, that's a very good question. I'm glad that our CEO here, she's head of content, and she definitely has plenty to say regarding, community coming into support. It will be a great privilege to work with everyone. Amazing privilege in any way that you can support us. The first thing I would say is spread the word first. Spread the word about Batazia. We're here. We're here to make a change, and we need you to support us. If you're an African writer, you're writing books in any African language, please, we need you. If you are passionate about African languages, as Chris just said, and you want to see that change, you're an engineer or maybe in marketing, and you would like to, at the moment, maybe volunteer, we would like to meet you. For our current positions, I would have to actually speak with our managers to know what positions we have, but I do know that for now we do have a need for an NLP engineer. We do, and I know that Chris also has told me if he's very connected in that network for African languages, and so hoping to reach out. But we have so many ways. There's a plethora of ways that you can support Batazia. I just don't even know where to start. Spread the word, tell people about Batazia, connect with us on our social media. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Connect with us, give us feedback. You can also sign up to be an early tester, because we're about to start loading beta testers. So we need to know, we need all of that feedback. So you can send out information at info@batazia.com, or you can sign up on our website to join our beta testers. That is how we want the community to really support us, because the early testers will really put us on the right path. I do believe that you would guide us in building a platform where we all can support each other with our natural languages. So yes, that's where from the top of my head I see the support. Sign up on our website to be an early tester, to join. We are looking forward to that feedback. If you're a writer in African languages, we are searching for you. Please go to info@Batazia. If you write short stories, if you're already a published writer, if you're just starting to write, if you're just starting to make videos in your dialect, we're focused on that. Let me be quite specific. Not just if you're an African writer and in your dialect in particular, that's a plus. But if it's in any other language, we would still welcome you, and we would love to have your content on Batazia. So connect with us. But more so, if it's in an African dialect, we really want to meet with you, and you can connect with us at info@batazia.com.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I guess we don't have any more questions from anyone else. Okay, so I round up by saying thank you so much, Dipaponga, for talking to us about speech recognition for African languages and Batazia. This was a truly motivating, powerful speech. Like I said, you have the voice of a motivator. Reminds me of Nelson Mandela, Chinua Achebe, and this kind of people, the way they talk. Thank you so much for telling us, giving us just wonderful insight about the power of speech for African languages. Thank you to the audience for listening. See you all next time for our next Lanfrica Talks. Check out Batazia, check out their social media page, and check them out and the wonderful work they're doing. Thank you all, and have a great day.